Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. As stated last week, we're going to do this week the Vayomer of Lecha. This week we were blessed by the Shabbos of Lecha, and this is, of course, an eternal lesson. It's 40 years since the Rebbe gave us this message, this energy, this strength, this power, with this Vayomer in our lives, and it goes in continuation to some of the things that we spoke about in last week's Vayomer. And, we encounter challenges, and we're given a mission. We're given a mission by God, and God gives us the strength to do our mission. So let's see if we can find some of that in this week's Vayomer. It's relatively short, but it's, of course, long, and it's very strong in its messages. Vayomer Havayel Avram Lech mi'atzcha u'mimiladetcha u'mibeis avicha elo oretz asher areka v'avorcha v'gad l'shmecha v'heyei bracha v'avorcha v'vorcheka geimer v'nivrechu v'chok u'mishpcheso adama. So the parsha of Lech, the fundamental parsha where God gives Abraham his first mission, begins with God saying, and God, the verse says, and God spoke to Abram saying, go for you from your land and from your birthplace and from the home of your father to the land which I will show you, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be for a blessing, and I will bless those that bless you, and the families of the earth will be blessed by you. In other words, they will bless themselves by following your example, etc., and the way you live. And we know what the Rabbeim taught in their Chassidic discourses, starting with Alter Rebbe and the Torah, and followed by, of course, subsequent Rabbeim, his son, grandson, Mittler Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek in the Oira Torah, and in the subsequent discourses. The Lecha, and move on. Really, this verse begs for explanation. The following things don't understand. And the several of the commentaries ask these questions that are discussed in the discourses, but they're of course explained in the Chassidic way. The Lecha, move on. Why does it say, go for yourself from your land? It should just say, leave or go from your land. It doesn't have to say, go for yourself. This word, Lech, Lecha, go for yourself. That's not the normative figure of speech that's used. Now, let's take the steps. If I was going to tell somebody to leave in these three stages, these three locations, I would have to say it in exactly the opposite way, if we're going to go in a chronological order at least. So here we say, from your land, from your birthplace, from your father's home. So, the simple way of understanding it should have been exactly the opposite. If you're going to leave, so you're going to first leave the home of your father, then your birthplace, and even in the and if you want to see what does that mean, the Hainu Shchunose, that's your neighborhood where you grew up, Kedisa b'Medrash, like the Medrash explains, that was the intent. And then, like from your country, the Pirusha Yivarcha Shalcha Kedisa b'Medrash, that would be like they used to have the walled cities, or in other words, the big town where the neighborhood was, where the home was, like the Medrash explains. Additionally, what is the connection between this, leaving the home, to what it says subsequently, and I will bless those that bless thee? There are other things, other lessons to be learned. Like the Rebbeim explain in their discourses explaining this verse, and in verses that are also explained, even if they explain this verse, even if the discourse is not based on this verse. And we have these discourses from the Rebbeim, from the Admor HaZokin, Admor HaTzemach Tzedek, V'Nesim L'Reseyem, from the Alter Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe, and from the each Rebbe in his generation, Ad L'Drusha L'Chak Mochadmur, L'Siderenu, till also the Mamorim of my father-in-law, the Rebbe, the prince, the leader of our generation. And of course, we are learning the Rebbe's Vayomer, which follows. The crux of the explanation here, B'Drushim Hanal, in those discourses from the Rebbeim, this idea of going forward, there are two primary ways that are discussed. Halicha Milmata L'mayla, V'Halicha Milmayla L'mata. There's the way we would go going upward, from below to above. Then something which comes down from above. And we'll talk about what this means. And since this is a part of the Torah, which the Torah is an eternal lesson, an eternal instruction, take out the yellow highlighters. This type of travel, of going forward, there we have this in the service of God, of each and every single individual Israelite, every single Jew. Everyone has this. So again, like we've pointed out many times, every discourse has energy, has a lesson, and has power for how we have to live our lives. And in about 90%, the Rebbe says, Kol echad v'achas miYisrael, every person. And sometimes it's alluded to. But in most, it's actually explicit, not necessarily implicit. And not only everything in Torah is a lesson, and now especially anything that pertains to our father Abraham. Why? Because we are told in several places, the Maisa of V'Simila, something which the forefathers did is a sign for their offspring, for their children. Now, this is in general the forefathers for the whole nation of Israel, and also it's in our own lives. The way parents act, that's the way children will act. And as it's explained elsewhere, and the Rebbe explains this, talks about this in several places. The Ein Zirak Simen, it's not just when it says the forefathers did something, it's not just an indication and a signal and a sign, but Ella Nesinas Kech, it actually gives us the strength and power to also overcome these challenges the way they did. Upsichas Hatzinor, it opens up the conduit, the faucet, the pipe. It's like there's a pipe full, but then this opens it up and lets it flow. V'haderech, and it also blazes the path. Avur habonim, for the offspring. Lahakel aleim lahasik madregazu, to make it easier for them to reach this level. Why? Because this was already by the forefathers. It passes to their offspring and their children as an inheritance, which comes automatically. We own it. It passes to us straight. So what does it mean that you're going to go for yourself, going forward from below to above? Let's start with that. The first thing is, when a person is on their path in how they're going to go about serving God. So we were created with things that are cumbersome, they're hard, they hold back forward progress, because not everybody wants to do what's right. So that's called Ritzeni Shel Adam. The will of what a person wants. This is what you want, and then is what has to really get done. So we have to leave Artzecha, your land. What is your land? That also has the same letters as Rotzen. Eretz is called, Eretz, earth is called, by this word, Sherotza Salatza, like we learned last week and other weeks, that it wanted to do what the Creator wanted. Now here, it's talking about what is your natural instinct and your natural wants. So you have to leave that to be able to do what God wants. So I just used that analogy to say why earth is called earth, which it's ironic because earth in and of itself is doing exactly what God wanted it to do. But therefore, you stand on your earth, whether it's your scorched earth or whatever the earth it may be. It's your earth, the way you were trained, the way you are, and that's what you have to leave from. So, and then you have to also leave your birthplace. That's what makes sense to you. Your intellectual ideas, and like the Tanya says, the intellect, of course, brings about the emotions and the attributes. And the home of your father, that's a reference to the attributes that are already a result of your ideas and your intellect. From here, you have to go to the place that God wants you to transform to go to that place, to the place that I will show you. The supernal will, the will of God. So not just what we naturally want, all these things, but to do the holy things, the things that God is asking, the will of the Holy One, blessed be He, to the extent, like it says in the Talmud, make His will, meaning God's will with the capital H, should be like your will. Turn that into what you really want to do. So that's why when Abraham started on his journey and he got to a certain station, so it says that Abraham built an altar to God who appeared to him. Then the next place in chapter 12 verse 7 it says to God who appeared to him, and then in chapter 12 verse 8 it says he made it just stam. He made the altar for God. What changed here? So the Alter Rebbe explains in Torah, and the Rebbe quotes that here. That's because he was also progressing from below to above. First altar that he made was to God that appeared to him. It's the level of God that is revealable. In other words, that's the lower level that he attained. And now he went to explore further, and then he was able to see God in his essence, the way it is, not even in a revealable sense, but to be in touch with that level. So he goes up higher to the level of just plain God. Now, that was the way of going from below to above. But now how is it the other way? From the higher realms to the lower. Avram. His name at first, before it was Abraham, it was Abram. Avram. What is Avram? Like the sages explain, Avram, a very lofty father. That's a reference to Seichel Hanela Mikol Rayin. That's the loftiest part of the intellect. That's before it even develops into ideas. The Seichel B'chlal Hu Ha'elyin Shabe'elam. So first of all, the highest level just in a person is, of course, their intellect. So in terms of the world, it's also the highest level. V'inyin Avram Hu Seichel Ram. So Avram means the high father, means the highest intellect. To the level of intellectual prowess and capability and power that's hidden from every idea. In other words, it's loftier before it even starts to develop into something which can become practical and thought about. But it's just the power. So that's the highest level, and then it has to flow down and become something. This is drawn down from below, from above to below, to the level of Oretz, to the earth, to practicality, Asher Areka, which God says, which I'll show you, and it goes the other way. So in other words, you have to first grow, and then it has to come down, be brought down to this world, and what we do, the Koyal Sviras HaMalchus Eretz HaChaim, that's a reference to the lowest Svira, the Svira of Malchus, royalty, the king, which is the kingdom, which is made up of the subjects of the kingdom, which are all giving and then accepting. Eretz HaChaim, just like earth, the earth of life, just like earth gets a seed and produces. It's all part of the kingdom. Ad la'artz HaChaim bepashtus Eretz Yisrael, and then this is to bring down all the holiness, which is in the land of life, in its simplest fashion, the land of Israel, where we fulfill the mitzvahs of sanctifying everything that we do, and with the produce, etc., etc. So what does this mean now? Like we like to say in dollars and cents, in practical application. So going from below to above is how the person serves God in prayer and in fulfilling the mitzvahs. Why? How does that mean going upward? So we'll talk about that in a moment. But the second way, coming from above to below, that's Torah study. So tefillah, why is prayer going from below to above? We've learned this in the past. The idea of a prayer is a ladder, which is lodged in the ground, but its head reaches into the heavens. And therefore, we start with the toughest, being in the toughest way, and bring ourselves higher in a godly sense through prayer, through the various stages of prayer. That's why it's steps. So ha'alo milmata l'mayla, it uplifts us from below to above. V'chein ha'mitzvos nitnu b'dvarim gashmim davke, u'be'efen modudu mugbol. The mitzvahs also are given to be performed with physical matter, with physical things, and specifically in a measured and a limited way. The litesif, litigna, you're not allowed to add to the mitzvahs, you're not allowed to increase, you can't add a mitzvah, you can't take away a mitzvah, and then within the mitzvahs itself, it has to be done within the parameters of every single mitzvah. The person performing the mitzvah is elevating the whole physical earth by performing the mitzvah with whatever physical object the mitzvah is being performed with, which is representative of everything that is physical on earth. Like its simplest form of understanding, the Rebbe explains it a little more, that through fulfilling mitzvahs, a person takes something physical of this world, and makes them into objects of a mitzvah. Ad mitzvahs mamish, they become the actual mitzvah, the actual commandment, which is fulfilling the instruction of God and the will of God. And he elevates it higher and higher. Ad l'roza de Ein Sof, to the extent, to the mystery and the secret of the infinite of God. That's we bring up this physical back to the Creator. Now there's the Zohar says that the Raza, the Korban Ha'ila and Raza de Ein Sof, the secret and the mystery of the offerings, the sacrifices, goes up till the mystery of the Ein Sof, the infinite of God. In other words, it reaches that highest level. Mashenk in Yonah Shal Torah, and how does Torah work? There it's taking the godly idea to apply it into this earth that's coming from above to below. And like it says, from heaven he made his voice heard. I'd like to point out this is one of the places that sometimes there's a negative connotation in something, but Chassidus takes the main part of it. The next word in that verse is liyasreka, to make things tough for you. But the point is, that's in that context. It doesn't only, the point is that the rest of the Torah is given that way. So, in other words, if somebody is chastised, that's a separate thing. But the ultimate of the fact that God spoke to us and appeared to us and revealed Himself to us, this is from the heaven. Amnam ininam shacham l'mayla hu anesin keach elaveda milmata l'mayla. Now, what gives us the strength to elevate this earth by performance of mitzvahs? That's what first came from above to below through the Torah. So this drawing forth from above to below is what gives us the power to elevate from below to above. Elevated to Adam, like quite simply understood, the Torah is what shows us and shows the person how to serve God, became a mitzvah, fulfilling the mitzvahs, milmata l'mayla, when he's elevating the world. Now regarding this comes the general instruction, like God says to Abraham in the beginning of this, in this verse, go for yourself from your land, from your birthplace. What does that mean in serving God and what we have to do? Studying Torah means to drop everything and be totally hyper-focused on the Torah study. Leave everything else out. You have to leave. You have to do it. Mikol Yonov, you have to leave everything. We say in the end of the Amidah, we say, my soul is like dust to everything. Open my heart to your Torah. What does that mean? Success in Torah study is that you not eliminate, but you subjugate and you make subservient everything else. Put it aside. You get rid of all that, and then you devote and focus on Torah study. Everything else, that stuff right now. I'm learning Torah now. The rest is like dust. It's like nothing. You leave. Then you leave the dust, you leave from your earth, and you study Torah. This is what we learn in Ethics of the Fathers, in Pirkei Avos, which our sages taught us. Whoever fulfills the Torah from poverty, ultimately and in the end, they will fulfill it from wealth. So, what is this? This is really an odd lesson. The Rebbe spoke about it earlier in the year, in Sukkot of that year, 40 years ago too. So if we're talking about demographics, so it says whoever fulfills the Torah from poverty or within poverty, they will end up fulfilling it with wealth. So first of all, why don't they talk about the middle class? What'll happen? Maybe the lesson should continue. If you fulfill it with middle class, then this is what's going to happen. And if you fulfill it from wealth, you're already wealthy, right? But that's not the lesson. That's not the point here. And the Torah, the Rebbe will talk about it here, but we have to understand that, is this just like it sounds like this is something for listeners. Oh, too bad, people are poor. Well, you'll still study Torah because you'll end up getting rich. There's something much deeper here, the Rebbe says. So first of all, there is the simple way of understanding it that way. And that is, of course, even if somebody does have real poverty, they should still study Torah, and ultimately they will be able to have wealth and riches, however it may be. But now let's look at it in a deeper message. So, v'hagam shebepashtes hatam l'davar hu ki Torah l'roiv tedaber. So the reason why the Mishnah says that simply is because the Torah speaks about the vast majority. And for better or for worse, most of the Torah, its place was people who were fulfilling it in poverty, because there was widespread poverty. And to the extent that the Talmud tells us, be respectful of the poor people, because a lot of Torah comes out from them, because they focus on Torah study. But besides that, in terms of a demographic, first of all, why is that? Why that everyone wants to know? Why should it be that way? In other words, why is it that there's poverty like that, and that the poverty is conducive to Torah study or should have more Torah study, etc. Achininu kanal, ki davke, like we discussed earlier, there's a much deeper, profound message here. Ki davke de aveda b'chinas eini ubitl. When serving God in humility and subservience and being submissive, nafshika for lakiltia, my soul is like dust to all. This is what brings you to open up. We had the rest of the prayer that we ask God, open up my heart to your Torah. This is what it means, that if you do that, then you'll end up keeping it in wealth. If you're submissive and subservient and focused, then you'll end up having a greater measure, and it'll be in a spiritual sense. You get to the wealth of the Torah. First of all, you'll have a vast amount of Torah in both quality and quantity, in a way that you could study more and more and more. The Torah is made to increase and etc. You're even able to come up with new ideas in Torah. And the same way it's in Torah study, it's also with the way we pray, the way we daven. It has to go from below to above, and you have to grow in this. And to pray properly, you have to leave everything else behind. The Kamayim and the Mishnah, like the Mishnah says in the Tractate of Brachas, that you don't daven except with kovid rosh, which means taking something very seriously. It means literally it says with a heavy head, but it means total focus and contemplation prior to pay attention, etc. The hainu idea is born as begadlus hakel d'shivus la'adam, and it comes with the contemplation, the realizing the greatness of God and the lowness and the true place of the human being. And the prayer itself is like a person who stands, like a Talmud tells us, like a servant standing before his master. And this is what the verse means: go from your land to the land which I will show you. Listen to this. The ultimate of this service, you come to the level that God says, I will show you. Asher areka, gili muhu, but now the Rebbe is saying, Asher areka, I will show you, like I'll show off with you. I'll show you off. Gili muhu Yisrael, this will be the revelation of the true makeup of what Israelites are. I will show you, not I will show it to you. I will show you to whoever I want to show. Then you come to the end of the verse, and it'll be for a blessing. Through the ultimate of serving God in these things, in prayer and Torah study and performance of mitzvahs, we draw down the blessings from above. We get ownership of these blessings. They're placed into your hand, like Rashi says, that Abraham got. He got the blessings. The that the blessings of God that were given to Abraham were in a way that he was the ultimate messenger of God, and therefore the messenger is like the one who sends the messenger, and he becomes the messenger of the supernal man, meaning God himself, and you're just like them. He was a godly person. This is also what it's explained in the Mamorim, B'Shem HaMedrash, in the name of the Medrash. The Chassidic discourses quote this Medrash, the idea of going for you, that alludes to the ultimate redemption. Because all of the ideas of the redemption, they include the what's called the double letters. Like on Shabbos, it says everything in Shabbos is doubled. What are the double letters? The letters that we say that we write differently at the end of a word. So we call them mansepach. Interestingly enough, it goes in alphabetical order, except that the last letter of this little phrase is made from the chaf. The letter chaf, which is the 11th letter, is the first one that's double, right? There's chaf and the long chaf. Then there's mem and the final mem, which is a closed mem. Nun, and there's the final nun, the long nun. The pei and the final pei, which is also a long pei, a long foot. And the tzaddik, which is also the long tzaddik. And by the way, it's not in alphabetical order because we say man tzipach. The tzaddik goes before the pei in this version. And everything in Shabbos is double. Now, interesting, just this is a side note that it's really not alluded to over here. But if you look at the way in the beginning of Musaf, we say something called Tekanta Shabbos and Tzizko B'nei Seha. The first blessing in the Musaf prayer, we go backwards alphabetical order. And then we say Gamo Yaveh Gedula B'choru. We finish up the last letters. Those who love it have chosen the greatness. Oz, and then we say Sinai, Nitztavu, Tzivuye, Po'aleha Koroi. From Sinai, the commandments were given to us in a befitting manner. If you look carefully, that's the acronym for these 5 letters that are doubled. Sinai, Nitztavu, Tzivuye, Po'aleha Koroi is Mansepach, which are the double letters. Because Iskid Shabbat Kofel, something on Shabbos has to be. Now you're only going to find that in Sfard and Ushari. If I understand correctly, if you look in the Ashkenaz, you don't have that. But we're not here discussing the various intricacies of the different Uschois and prayer versions, and it's certainly not our expertise. But nevertheless, just to point it out, that explains that this is all matters of redemption are connected to double letters too. So you see, in the Shemini Esrei and Musaf, we do have mention when we're going from below to above, and after we finish the letters, we have those letters of the double letters, which is connected to the Geula. V'tam adavarhu mishum she'inyan hakefel meid al yichud zun. Why is this that why do we say that the double letters are connected to the redemption? Because that's the idea of the union of male and female, right? Which brings about something else. So the yichud seviv kol almim mal kol almim. So it's the union of the powers of God, the way they surround, and meaning the way that they encompass all worlds. It's in a way of strength which is higher than what the world is able to handle, which is called Mamalakol Alm. Each world is able to take the energy of God to the extent that it's able to handle, and therefore in the chain of creation, every single world to our lowest world has a bare minimum of this godliness. But in terms of what's encompassing the great God that created, all the worlds are equal in that sense. So these two elements of God have their union to create. V'zehu teichen hagili delosid, and this is the revelation that will happen in the future. Shozi repashas hagili desev kulam lamata. Then, after Mashiach comes, we'll have a revelation of this part of encompassing this energy of the God that's really not able to be related to right now, before Mashiach comes, before the redemption. So shows you Pashta Gila to save Kulalmi in Lamata B'Malakalalmi, and we'll be able to handle it in the way it feels, the way we're able to see it on earth. Kamesha Kosu, and like it says, V'nigla Kvedavaya V'ro Kol Basu Yachtov, the verse in Isaiah says that the glory of God will be revealed, and all flesh will be able to see this together. All flesh, like we've learned elsewhere, it's not even something that you will need an eye. Just it'll be something which is felt and seen. How does this happen? Through leaving your habitat and what you're used to, etc., leaving your land. Avram, and like we saw by Abraham, that when he left, through his serving God, he called with the name of God, and he said he's the God of the world. And like Chassidus explains, he didn't say this is the God of the world. He said this is the God world, of world. In other words, not of the world. In other words, this is God that permeates everything. Meaning that God and the world ultimately is one thing. Everything in the world is God. There's nothing besides God. We just say there's nothing else. It's only God. Not only there's nothing beside God, there is only God. And there's nothing else. Nothing else besides it. Meaning there's a singular existence, and that's God. We're able to see in a revealed sense within the creation, which its job is to hide the Creator. Because unless you study and look and contemplate and feel and know and work on this, you know this is godly. But otherwise, it's seemingly not. You don't see God. And here, after all of this, we understand that everything is God. It's created by God. It is God. It's a piece of God, etc. And therefore, it's the true existence. It's all part of it. It's all God. So usually you say this word Yesh HaNivra means that which is created and got its existence. And then the true existence, which is seemingly Ayin, nothing, but it's the true existence, that's God. Now we're talking, the Rebbe explains that it's all one thing, you get to that level. Here you take out again the yellow highlight markers. Just like it was by our father Abraham, so it is by every single individual Israelite. Shem b'nei Avram, Yitzchak v'Yaakov b'nei Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah. They are sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and daughters of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. The Kashem Avram, I did shleimus avidos ve'efin Lech chamiat chagila shleimus v'nivruchu v'chol kol mishpachis Adamo. Just like Abraham to the fulfillment and the ultimate of his serving God, in a way of leaving his characteristics in his land, that he got to the ultimate of what God wanted of him. Then the result is that all families of the earth are blessed by you. This is the same with what we do, every single individual. Now through every Israelite serving God in both of these ways. In other words, going from below to above and above to below, and that means in the prayer and in mitzvah performance and Torah study. That then, excuse me, I skipped. You come to the revelations of the future to come, which then will have the fulfillment of the prophecy of those. Like it says in Tzfanya, that the prophecy says that then I will turn to all the peoples and all the nations with one clear message, to call them all, and they will all call the name of God, and they'll all serve together. They'll all recognize God and godliness. That'll be the ultimate. Maybe the will of God that this is very soon. And we should have the fulfillment of the prophecy of Isaiah 60, that rise my light, because your light has come and the glory of God is shining upon you. With the truthful redemption through our righteous Mashiach. So we have our work cut out. Yasher Koyach.